Previously on Absolutely Criminal. Morgan Geyser met Peyton Leitner in kindergarten. When the twosome met Anissa Weier, their duo quickly became a trio. May 30th, 2014. Morgan invited her best friend Bella to a sleepover at her house.
From what I know, Morgan and I rode the bus to our house. We went to my house so I could pick up my things.
They planned to lure Bella to Morgan's house, stab her to death at the basement with a kitchen knife, flee the house, and run into the forest. The pernicious pair would then proudly proclaim their deeds to a man who lives there. His name is Slender Man.
We didn't know it was going to be May 31st. We knew it was going to be at my birthday sleepover. We had no idea how difficult it was not to tell anyone.
Anissa mostly appeared visually distraught at the day's events, sometimes sobbing and expressing regret.
And then, the whole time, Peyton was screaming through agony.
Morgan had a different kind of reaction after she tried to polish off her pal.
I might as well just say it. We were trying to kill her. I don't know why it was necessary that it was her, but it seemed very necessary.
Morgan and Anissa's original plan fell apart when one of the girls chickened out. On the morning of May 31st, they would head out to their local park. One girl would somehow distract Bella, and the other would stab her to death with the kitchen knife concealed in her coat.
And then, when I was 5 feet away, I said, "Now," and Morgan said, "Don't be afraid, I'm only a little kitty cat," and jumped on top of Bella and stabbed her repeatedly. Then he stabbed her.
Who stabbed her first?
I think Anissa stabbed her first, and then I continued. Sort of confusing because I've been trying to block out the screams all day.
Away they ran, left Bella for dead, and made a beeline for Nicollet National Forest.
We just ran forward. The rule is go forward until you get out of Waukesha.
Meanwhile, Bella was far from finished, but in desperate shape. Finally, a passing cyclist came upon her, bloody from head to toe and struggling to cry out.
What's the address of your emergency?
Waukesha County, Lindy. I'm transferring over a caller on Big Bend. Came upon a 12-year-old female. She appears to be stabbed.
She appears to be what?
Stabbed.
Stabbed?
Correct.
It wasn't long before police spotted the cruel couple walking together not far down the road.
How did they find you?
Doesn't mean it said that we should sit in the grass. They said it was way too obvious. We could be like, "No," and then we that was right.
The question at hand was whether or not the girls would be charged and tried as adults. If convicted, would they be released as young adults or as old ladies? Or would they ever see daylight again? "12-year-olds Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier have just stabbed their best friend, Peyton Bella Leitner, and left her for dead. Morgan adopted the role of an evil kitty cat when she bladed Bella. However, it was now her victim that scratched and clawed through the dirt and leaves, desperate to reach the road just feet away. This is the story of 3 girls, 2 uncertain futures, and 1 brave survivor. And this is Absolutely Criminal. When last we left the girls, they'd been separated by detectives at the Waukesha, Wisconsin Police Department. In one room, the stone-cold reality of a new normal was starting to set in, if just barely.
Kind of worried that, I'm just scared all around.
What are you worried about?
I know she'll never trust me again unless she eats my guts.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty serious what happened. She was very, very close to dying
Oh.
today.
Okay.
Doctors were able to save her.
Okay.
How does that make you feel?
Good.
Makes you feel good that she's alive?
Mm-hmm. Will I be able to go back to school?
You know, I don't know if you're going to be able to go back to school on Monday. But at some point in time, you'll be able to go back to school.
Okay.
Okay.
I just realized something.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't go to school on Monday, that'll be the first day I miss a day of school.
You're kidding. You've never missed a day of school?
Never.
In the other interrogation room, reality only existed within the confines of her muddled mind.
Pictures of our family inside the purse because Anissa said we might never ever get to come back. I didn't like that idea because I would have missed my daddy.
If you thought you had either one of them summed up, you might not have known all the parts of the equation. This is Act 2 of a story that's still not all played out. Anissa Weier was remorseful and distraught when detailing her reckless romp through the woods on a mission to silence the skeptics once and for all. She'd follow her friend into the forest and give her the go-ahead to stab their BFF to death and live forever in a mansion deep in Nicollet National Forest. In February 2015, with both girls having been found competent to stand trial, the preliminary hearing finally began. They've been evaluated, and as long as they understand the charges against them and can aid in their own defense, defendants in Wisconsin are counted competent. So on they went. The issue at hand was whether the dangerous duo would be charged as juveniles or adults. If found guilty as adults, they faced 45 years in prison, as opposed to being released at age 25 if tried in juvenile court. August 10, 2015. Judge Michael Boren decided that if you commit a big girl crime, you should receive big girl time. Anissa and Morgan, just 12 years old, would be tried in adult court. The world now saw their faces for the first time. The ruling was a devastating blow for both of them, but it would have the most serious consequences for Morgan. Her diagnosed schizophrenia would remain untreated for 2 years while she sat in adult jail, necessarily in isolation. In January of 2016, Morgan was finally approved by a judge to enter a state mental hospital. Once she was properly treated for her schizophrenia, her mind lucid at last. The horror of what she'd done came rushing to the surface. For the first and only time, Morgan could no longer choose not to feel. She was ravaged by remorse. Morgan's mother, Angie Geyser, talked about her family's struggle with mental illness shortly after her daughter's first proper treatment.
Your job as a mother is to protect your child from bad things happening to them, and I felt like I failed. How didn't I know? How didn't I know that she was sick? Even though I know, looking back, that she was, she was doing well in school, and she had friends. She didn't have a lot of friends, but she always had a handful of close friends. There were some things that we dismissed as, well, she was going through puberty right before she left. She got her period right before she was arrested. So there were some things that we dismissed as maybe typical teenage girl behavior that weren't. I don't think that there were any glaring, obvious clues that she was ill. Again, there were no overt symptoms, and even though she reports now having symptoms as young as 3. Well, the way that she explains it is that because it was always like that for her, she just assumed that that's the way it was for everyone. She did make a conscious effort to hide her her symptoms from us. I think part of that was because her hallucinations were friends. They were friendly for the most part, and she didn't want them to go away. I'll ask her, why didn't you ever tell me about this? And she says, because you would have done something.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, of course I would have done something. The one thing that bothers me that's been so inaccurately reported about Morgan, and it even came up in court, is that she refused medication. It's 100% not true. She never refused treatment or medication.
It was never offered to her, probably?
Exactly. You can't refuse something that's not being offered to you. And the statement that so many, news sources have reported on, I mean, it's just not true.
Okay.
She never refused treatment. It bothers me because it was even listed as one of the reasons for denying her the reverse waiver.
Yeah.
That she refused treatment. Well, that's not true. She made a statement to her doctors that she didn't want to take medication because she didn't want to go she didn't want her friends to go away, but that's not refusing treatment. No, that's completely different. She's been nothing but compliant with her treatment, and even acknowledges how much it's helping her.
Later, in the fall of 2016, both young defendants entered a plea of not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. This means that at the time of the crime, neither prepubescent perpetrator knew right from wrong. Then a full year later, in August of 2017, Anissa pleaded guilty to a lesser charge, second-degree homicide as a party to a crime with use of a deadly weapon. As a result of this deal with prosecutors, the only unresolved question was whether she would be held criminally responsible. That all came down to what a jury would decide her mental state was on the morning of the stabbing. We got that answer 1 month later.
I've read the verdict, I've reviewed it, I'm satisfied that both questions are answered. Court will read the verdict. We, the jury, find as follows. Question 1. At the time the crime was committed, did the defendant have a mental disease or defect? Answer is yes by 10 to no. Question 2. As a result of the mental disease or defect, did the defendant lack substantial capacity to appreciate the wrongfulness of the conduct or to conform that conduct to the requirements of law? Answer yes, 10 in the square, 10 for yes, 2 in the square for no, 2. I note that the answer, or the word yes, is circled in answer to each of the questions. I'm satisfied that the answer is yes to each of those questions. There are 2 dissenting jurors to each of the questions. They are the same jurors. I'm satisfied the verdict is consistent and proper. Based upon that, I will find that Anissa Weier was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect to the crimes charged: attempted second-degree intentional homicide, party to the crime with the use of a dangerous weapon. Satisfied that one of the crimes is a felony that occurred after July 30, 2002, with a maximum penalty with enhancers of 35 years.
In September, Anissa Weier was found not guilty because 10 of 12 jurors agreed she was suffering from a mental disorder when they intended to sacrifice Peyton Leitner to Slender Man.
With that, I will order that she be committed to the Department of Health Services. I'll order that Ms. Weier then be returned to her residence in West Bend pending further proceedings. So ordered.
Thank you.
Court is in recess.
Later that week, Morgan reached a resolution of her own when she pleaded guilty as charged, but not to be held criminally liable. She would remain in treatment at the hospital until her sentencing scheduled for 5 months later. Just 3 days before Christmas in 2017, the public and all concerned parties gathered to find out the fate of Anissa Weier.
Morgan and I decided that we would make an attempt to fulfill the plan at the park. This was around 10 o'clock, I believe. We went to the park. I didn't realize that it was actually going to happen until Morgan lifted up her waistband and showed me the handle of the knife. After a while, we went into the bathroom. Morgan told me to stab Peyton. I told her that I couldn't do it. She tried getting me to do it again. I told her that I couldn't do it. A while later, we went into the woods, and that's when Morgan asked me whether or not she should do it. And I just wanted it to be over with. So I said, just go berserk, do what you have to do. And
So how was she hurt?
Morgan jumped on top of her and stabbed her repeatedly.
And what happened at a certain point, the two of you left?
Yes. Afterwards, I told Peyton to lay down and that she would lose blood slower, pardon my slip up. Then Morgan and I left and ran.
Now, why did all of this come about? Why did you have the plan?
I went through with it because I guess, okay, I'm sorry, could you restate the question?
Well, why did you develop the plan to kill?
I thought that it was just about proving that this fictional character existed. But I have no idea what Morgan's motivations were. I thought it was just about proving that something most people thought wasn't real was.
So this is, and who are you talking about?
The character?
Right.
Slender Man.
Right. What motivated you to conclude that you had to kill someone in order to follow through with whatever program you had with Slender Man?
Morgan came to me one day telling me that we should prove that Slender Man existed, and I asked her how, and she said we had to kill somebody, and I said okay, because I thought it was just a joke, honestly. I didn't think it was actually going to happen.
Judge Boren followed the prosecutor's recommendation and sentenced her to the maximum length of supervision until age 37. As part of her deal, she agreed not to seek release to community supervision until July of 2021. But hold that thought. We'll find out what she's doing today at the end of the show. If you're enjoying Absolutely Criminal and want to see more stories like this, please take a moment to hit thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell, because you don't want to miss a thing. Now back to our story. February 2nd, 2018. Back in Judge Boren's courtroom, Morgan Geyser faced a maximum of 40 years in a mental institution. Before she was sentenced, she was given an opportunity to address the court.
You understand, Ms. Geyser, you could address the court if you wanted.
I just want to let Bella and her family know I'm sorry. Never meant this to happen. And I hope that she's doing well.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your comments.
Those present in the courtroom that day and could see Morgan's face would later say they had no doubt her tearful display was genuine. The gravity of her guilty conscience, it seemed, was apparent in her allocution. Although the judge seemed to waver back and forth almost up to the end, he ultimately decided to sentence her to the maximum 40 years. He believed the likelihood of Morgan harming someone again was too great.
When I put it all together, the 40-year commitment appears reasonable and fair, taking into account the unique circumstances of this case. So I'm going to order that the commitment be for 40 years. It's a long time, and when I think and reflect on it, 40 years to a 15-year-old, what a long time that is. Yet there's more to it than just Ms. Geyser. Our focus to some extent is on what her status is today. But this is an issue of community protection. This is an issue to be sure there's no recidivism. This is an issue to ensure that Ms. Geyser doesn't have a revolving door situation where she ends up being in the community and then things fall apart and she comes back. Everyone who's in the legal system that's dealt with mental health issues from an NGI standpoint or from a civil commitment process know that individuals with mental health issues, as well as they're medicated, as well as they're taken care of, frequently come back because they decompensate, something happens. The court has to be sure that when that happens, there's control, there's supervision. Thus, the length of the commitment, I believe, is appropriate at 40 years, and that'll be the order of the court, so ordered.
Morgan's attorney says he plans to petition for her conditional release every 6 months. The request would first have to be supported by a staff of psychiatrists and then approved by Judge Boren or his successor. It's July 1st, 2021, and Anissa Weier went before Judge Boren once more. Following her self-imposed 3-year moratorium, her attorneys are asking His Honor to set her free. It would be with conditions, of course, until she is 37 years old. After both sides made their arguments, the judge was now ready to rule.
The report does recommend that Ms. Weier be released pursuant to the plan to reside with her father at the father's residence. It goes without saying this is a serious case, serious issues. The matter has received a lot of attention. Let me ask Attorney Dunn, does the family of the victim wish to make any statements to the court?
No, they indicated they did not, and they confirmed that they agreed with what I asserted.
All right. Does the state have any objections to the report?
No, Your Honor.
Their report is reasonable. It, of course, provides for the protection of the community, provides for the protection of the community as well as the victim. Also, it provides protection as well than for Ms. Weier. It's important we consider all of the individuals involved in such a report. I'm satisfied it's reasonable. It provides good protections as far as the community is concerned. It also provides a good plan for rehabilitation then of Ms. Weier. So I will approve the plan. All right, well, thank you all. Have a good afternoon. Then Ms. Weier, good luck to you. Have a good day. The court's in recess.
A conditional release plan was prepared and approved by the court, and on September 13th, 19-year-old Anissa was released to serve the rest of her commitment in her community. She will be supervised and monitored with GPS tracking devices. Her internet access will be monitored. She can't leave Waukesha County without the court's permission, and she must continue seeing her doctors and taking her prescribed medications. Peyton Leitner finally felt safe to speak out in 2019. She told ABC News that while she'd come to terms with most of what happened, she still sleeps with scissors under her pillow, just in case. She said she never wants to see Morgan or Anissa ever again, and that what they'd done was unforgivable. When she was told about Morgan's motive for the slashing, she wasn't the least bit surprised. She said Geyser believed in Slender Man so much, she would have done anything for the creepypasta pariah. Peyton was stabbed 19 times, and once she reached the hospital, she was rushed into emergency surgery. For 6 hours, doctors repaired the near-fatal knife wounds she had to her liver and stomach. The trauma surgeons, who have likely seen it all, were pleasantly perplexed as to how narrowly the knife point missed her heart. By all measures, the girl they called Bella excelled through all of this trial and trauma and is now attending college full-time. Peyton said that while the attack was horrific, she's thankful in a way, as it gave her life a direction and purpose. She wants to pursue a medical career, inspired by the doctors and nurses that saved her life.